It's finally the last episode. I tell you, these last 12 weeks have felt so long. Honestly, I've almost nothing to really say about this episode. It's cute. It wraps everything up. Weiss and Blake finally have the heart-to-heart they needed back on the docks. Shion leaves and makes a big speech about, semblances. Nothing about Ice Queendom has implied semblances were all that noteworthy. Hell, at this point they haven't even really explained what semblances are or how they work. I made a tweet predicting that we wouldn't get the food fight, but turns out I was wrong. We got to see quite a few really beautifully animated glamour shots of the food fight, which is weird, I'm gonna say. The climactic battle of the real plot looks like hot dog turds, but the goofy end of the volume no stakes food fight looks amazing. Alright, priorities. We see Ozpin's little interrogation with Blake, and it's interesting. In the show proper, he seems much more caring and concerned. Here, he seems much more threatening. I like how the shadows of the gears play into the tone shifts between the characters, too. It's an interesting new take on the scene, honestly. And I especially like the change in the environment. This, weird interrogation cell that they have just makes no sense. I'm glad they dropped that thing after volume 2. I have to wonder how much time has actually passed. They talk about having the last day of break before the new semester, just like the show proper, but where was the first semester? The episode starts with RWBY and Weiss writing letters back home, and it's did they wait till the end of the semester to talk to their family again? I don't... How long was it before they entered the dream? Was that the majority of the semester, the first 3 episodes? Was it a few days? A few weeks? How long were they actually in Weiss's dream? I assumed it all was taking place over one day, but I'm not so sure. I thought for sure, Juniper had to go to class at one point in time, but then they were back. I don't... How long is this last episode? Do these events just in this episode take place over a few days or weeks? Honestly, I realized something watching this. I was excited to see everyone actually talking and interacting with each other. Yang and Weiss specifically talking to Sun was really rad. I realized all it takes to actually impress me as a fan of RWBY is just seeing the characters actually interacting. That's how low the bar is that the show proper has set. Blake talking to Weiss, other than heavy-handed exposition dumping, I can't think of the last time that actually happened in the real show. Every time there is an interaction between characters that don't normally talk, it comes with this weird, plot-related addendum. And it doesn't really feel like a conversation, it's usually just one person saying a lot of stuff at another person. But whatever. Ice Queendom has them, actually interacting and talking and just being friends and stuff. I forgot how much fun the show was before they were running around the world trying to stop wars and whatnot, when they're just at school, hanging out at the cafe, texting each other goofy pictures. That shit's fun. That's the part that made me like RWBY. When they got to just be fun characters and have fun with each other. And that's just about it. It's cute, it's fine, it's over. I said my piece about Ice Queendom in detail in my last episode review, so now I just want to go over my bingo board and address what I didn't get marked off. I'm really jazzed I was wrong about Sun and Penny. I figured since they didn't show off either of their weapons in episode 3, that meant they wouldn't be sticking around. Ice Queendom actually does a really good job establishing Team RWBY's friendships with the other students. Again, having them actually just talking to each other helps. Similarly, I'm impressed Juniper actually got to do a lot more. Compared to, the manga, the official shonen manga, where Juniper are just, background scribbles doing nothing at all. Ice Queendom was a nice change of pace, and I'm glad that they didn't go how the manga went. Not only with Jean playing a pivotal role during the plot, but also the dream variants of them, and the real-world variants being there the whole time too. Hell, I feel like Ren and Nora got better and more extensive dialogue than all of volumes 1 through 3 combined. I expected Atlas to get discussed a lot more, since this was a look into Weiss's life and that's where she grew up. Unfortunately, Weiss's actual home life or living situation never really got explored beyond the Schnee Manor, which I guess isn't a bad thing. They could barely explain what a semblance is. I don't think they have the time to try to go into, like, the politics of Atlas and Mantle and whatnot. Port's voice actor has been confirmed. It's apparently someone who's voiced him for the remastered version of Grim Eclipse, which is neat. I haven't heard his performance yet, because Grim Eclipse looks boring and ugly. These character models are yikes. Sadly, Oobleck doesn't get a new voice because he never showed up, which is very sad. I love Oobleck. And of course, I was very wrong about the idea that there would be minimal Adam and the White Fang stuff. In hindsight, I actually feel kinda stupid. I didn't think this would play a larger role in a story centered around Volume 1 Weiss. Whoops. And that's sort of the end of my thoughts on Ice Queendom. I've made it very clear throughout my reviews that this whole thing is subpar for me, which is a shame because I had real high hopes when it was just starting out. However, just like last time, let's highlight some super chat comments and see what you all had to say. Leon is back. Hi again. Leon says, "It feels like Rooster Teeth just did this for bragging rights, to say that they made an anime, and I can't argue with you on that one. It feels like Ice Queendom was sold as a novelty idea. Wow, look, it's a real anime now, kind of thing." I saw Carrie tweeting out something along the lines of, "I can't believe I'm working on a show that's actually being made in Japan." And it feels like, maybe at least for him, the idea of, wow, Japan made this, and I like other anime that also come from Japan, was the real selling point for him. Especially since the more I think about it, the more I think this could have been like a book or a manga. RWBY has had plenty of those before. Hell, it could have been animated in-house and been their first movie. Dante says, "I wish they would have either have made Jean a part of the story or stopped acting like he was. I love Jean, but I hate to see the show jerk us around by baiting him being important than just pretending he was at the end when he clearly wasn't." Which, I agree with you 100%. Honestly, as much as I bitched about it in one of my previous reviews, I would have been much less upset with Jean's inclusion if he actually did anything. Everything he did was kind of just filler. His accessories were what became important at the end, and Jean being there added very little in the long run. Also, why did he have to drag Dream Pura around with him? For being introduced as something more special compared to the other sillies, and having a radically different design reminiscent of Weiss's own dress, you'd kind of expect her inclusion to have more of an impact. Which leads right into the next super chat from Stargazer. I think it may have been more interesting from a story perspective if Pyrrha was the one that went into the nightmare instead of Jean. Not only so that Pyrrha can actually interact with Team RWBY, but also I think the concept of Weiss idealizing Pyrrha could have been explored more. And I agree that that would have made way more sense if it was Pyrrha who entered the dream world. Not only because of everything I and you just said, but also the fact Weiss clearly has a much better impression of Pyrrha. You know, I think there's just much more to explore with that dynamic. And maybe most importantly, Pyrrha dies in Volume 3, only a short while after the events of Ice Queendom, really. I think going the extra mile to give her more prominent screen time, especially in some supplemental material like this, would have been a real treat for the fans of the show. To get to see Pyrrha more than what we got from the show proper. But instead we got this silent, just girl being dragged around who sits there and looks confused most of the time. This isn't what I wanted. We could have done much more. With the big moment of we're bringing Pyrrha back for Ice Queendom, you think we could have done much more, but oh well. We had to give it to Jean again. Woo, Jean. Overall, I appreciate the attempt to include Juniper into the real story, but I think, just like many other aspects in Ice Queendom, it was mismanaged in the long run. And our last super chat comes from Night Shadow. "It wouldn't be an anime show if there wasn't any fan service. Lol, I didn't realize that she had no pants till now. Or are those her combat pants?"
You hardly look the part, says the girl wearing a dress.
Come on, Blake, at least she's got a combat skirt on. What the hell are you going on over here? In all seriousness, I was actually amazed at how little fan service Ice Queendom actually has. I remember when the outfits got revealed on Twitter and stuff, people were like, whoa, look at Blake's like Dobby Mommy outfit. And it's like, no, it's just kind of form-fitting. It covers her up more than her actual outfits usually do. At most, Pyrrha and Yang kind of have low collars-ish, but honestly, it's all nothing nothing compared to the constant boob windows from the show proper. Even when they're in the snow place, gotta have your titties hanging out. I'm also never going to get over how the anime spin-off gave them winter designs that actually look like it's intended for the cold environment, which the show proper definitely failed to do in any regard. None of these outfits look good for winter. Not a single one of them. Thank you all for your lovely super chats. I really appreciate it. And if you want your comments read out loud and addressed in a video, consider leaving a super chat as well. It really does help me out a lot. So, Ice Queendom is done. Maybe there'll be a second season, but I'm not gonna put the cart before the horse. I'm not gonna have a big hour-long review for this one. It just does not sound like fun. I've covered everything I think I wanted to cover, and that's about it. Overall, I would give Ice Queendom a 5 out of 10. If you're a fan of RWBY, then there's a good chance you'll enjoy the reanimated fight scenes from the classic moments from the show. Seriously, everyone seemed way more excited about the idea of the food fight rather than the actual plot with the nightmare. Unfortunately, the choreography the anime uses just cannot live up to Monty's phenomenal work from the show proper. And a lot of fan-favorite moments got cut, which makes sense with the flow of the plot, but it's still a bit of a bummer to miss out on those moments. Without a doubt, the most fun I had as a fan of the show is just seeing the kids having much more interactions with each other, both in and out of the nightmare. But if Ice Queendom is your first look at the world of RWBY, I can only imagine you'd be walking away more confused than anything. The first 3 episodes and the last episode feel completely different than the plot in the middle. While it might be a fun gateway drug to introduce you to the rest of RWBY proper, I also can't help but wonder if people would be really off-put by the massive downgrade in animation quality seen in the original version. A lot of core elements don't really get well explained, like semblances and silver eyes, and overall this doesn't really feel like an anime made for newcomers. Going back to what Leon said in the super chats, it doesn't feel like this anime was made for newcomers because it doesn't explain a lot of details very well. But it also doesn't feel like it was made for people who do already watch RWBY, because we have to sit down and rewatch this recap of the first volume, and a lot of fan favorite moments from that recap get cut. So if it's not made for newcomers and it's not made for old fans, who is it made for? Well, quite frankly, it feels like it's made for the people at Rooster Teeth. The ones who wanted to say they made a real anime from Japan. That they wanted to have this under their belt, to look nice on their resume, to say that they did that proudly as they point to their anime from Japan and whatnot. The English dub starts releasing weekly starting next week, so you know, all that talk about it'll be simulcast in English was just all a lie. No, I'm definitely glad we got literally 0 updates on how this was going to work until literally 1 week before its air date. That's great. It's all definitely not just a ploy to try to convince people to keep their first memberships and Crunchyroll subscriptions for another 3 months. Definitely not. I do want to make a video addressing the English dub, since a lot of my reviews earlier on I mentioned how I wonder things would change for the dub version, but don't expect that video until after the whole dub has been released. I'm thinking of maybe getting Rambo to react to Ice Queendom and see what he has to say, and other than that, I do have a super fun podcast planned for next week with another very special guest, but you all will have to wait to see that one. And that's the end of Ice Queendom. It was a weird one, and it's over. Out with a whisper, I'd say.
I'm Ruby. I'm Weiss. Blake. Oh, I'm Yang.
Well, stop acting like you're perfect! I'm not perfect!
Not yet.
A member of the White Fang, right underneath our noses.
I just hope she's okay.
I thought you believed in acting as a team.
Not a team led by you.
Blake, Yang, and their fearless leader, RWBY, have begun their first mission.
Bonsai!
The faunas of the White Fang are pure evil. There's no such thing as pure evil.
You know what else is great? Me, Jean-Arc. Nice to meet you.
You again? Nice to meet you, Jean.
I am really tired.
Means you're a big, stupid jerk, and I hate you!
The White Fang would never work with a human, especially not one like that.
Great, the gang's all here. Now we could die together.
Yeah, Team RWBY is back together!
Shout out to my $10 patrons, you're all amazing. Nako, James Dodds, Cool Duck, Andrew, Ramiel, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, Classy Critic, Sunny Shy, Azoth, Great Bar, Pentimenta, Jake, Amber, Hype Man, Zero to Hero, Keithan, Isaiah, Joseph, Scare and Crows, Danny Boy, Messiah Complex, Jacob, Renji, and Virus O. So yeah, Ice Queendom is over. What did you think? Overall, well, what did you think? What did you think of this last episode? What did you think of the show proper? Do you want a second season? What do you want to see from that second season? Any and all thoughts and opinions about Ice Queendom and whatnot, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to see them. Thanks for following me on this Ice Queendom journey. It's been a weird one. But it's time to get back to some other stuff, especially because now that it's gonna be October and I'm ready for spooky Halloween things and not RWBY for a little bit. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.